Welcome everyone to the Housesit Hangout. Today I'd like to introduce Eden and Shelaugh. Welcome to the HouseSitMatch Housesit Hangout. Please could you say a little bit about yourselves, introduce yourselves, your experience of house sitting with pets, but also your love of travel perhaps, describe that to us. Shelaugh, perhaps you'd like to start?
Right. I retired 10 years ago, and since then I've done a lot of travel across Asia, Africa, South America. More recently I've been doing workaways in different countries, particularly Mexico. I've never done house sitting professionally, but I have been in the right place at the right time in a couple of places, which has been fine. I've really enjoyed doing that, especially with cats. I'm a big cat lover, but I love all animals.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And Eden, please tell us about yourself.
My husband and I are experienced house sitters. We're in year 6 right now of full-time house sitting. We've pretty much been around the world. We haven't hit Australia and New Zealand yet, and we lived in Asia for a couple months because we had some house sits lined up, but it didn't go through. And we've just really enjoy it. We love the lifestyle. We're in Hawaii right now on a 2-month sit. We just got here, so we're kind of in quarantine still. We had a 14-day mandatory quarantine, and so we're just really happy to get back to the lifestyle. We were supposed to be in Egypt this whole year, basically, for a 5-month house sit, returning to a town in Egypt we'd been to before, and then COVID hit, of course, so then everything just blew up. So we're actually so happy to be back into our zone, into our real life. It's so hard when you have everything planned out and then boom, it just gets pulled out from underneath you. And we're, oh, I just lost my thought, but that's it.
That's great. Look, thank you. And because it's so timely, your mention about COVID, I mean, just for the recording's sake, to let everyone know, we are now coming out of lockdown in Europe and especially the UK, but we have been under lockdown because of the COVID-19 virus for about 3.5 months. And the rest of the world is beginning to emerge with us. So travel is now on the books. As Eden has described, she's actually managed to travel from the States all the way to Hawaii, which is fantastic. Actually, I think we're all envious of you. Eden, that sounds like a marvelous house sit. In fact, if there's any room, let me know. But in terms of what you've been doing in sort of preparation for house sitting or even just thinking about more travel, Shelaugh, have you been sort of thinking about what to do after COVID? Have you kind of got any plans?
I was actually thinking of returning to Mexico. Most summers I go to a spiritual retreat in New Mexico. And then that's why I've traveled down to Mexico quite a lot. But at the moment, I've come back to the UK because I was actually in Honduras when the lockdown started, and the Foreign Office said we're just going to do one last repatriation flight. So I'm back staying with my brother, and at the moment, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm wondering about going to Spain.
What were you doing in Honduras?
I was doing a workaway.
Ah, right. Fantastic. Because it's not on the usual route, is it? I mean, Honduras is slightly offbeat.
Yes, yeah.
But you're thinking of Spain.
Beautiful country. Yes, yeah.
You're very adventurous. I mean, it sounds like you're very adventurous. You seem to have kind of a nose for unusual places and unusual things to do. I mean, was it workaway that kind of took you to these unusual places?
It's just I'm just curious about different places. I love meeting different people. If I can be part of in the local communities, get to know them a bit better, and workaways are a great way to do that.
Yes, I look at that sometimes too. Actually, is a great interest. Sorry, Eden, you were going to say.
I was going to say I look at workaways sometimes too, and I think, oh, we could go do that, and I'm like, oh no, that's work. Like you have to actually like you're on somebody, like somebody's expecting things from you, right? And that just gets like, it gets really heavy for my, it just get really, I'm like, none of them have really just like lit me up, like, oh my God, I thought, oh, we'll go to the goat farm, or we'll go do, there's one, my husband's electrical contractor, right? So, and he's built homes. And so I'm like, oh, we can do construction stuff. And then he kind of looks at me, he's like, I don't want to be doing stuff for somebody else 4 hours a day. That doesn't sound fun. I'm retired. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, but I admire the spirit.
Yeah. Well, and with house sitting, you usually have your own responsibilities with pets, and you run your own business, of course.
Yeah, and I think we've just gotten so accustomed to our routine. Even every house that obviously we have challenges, and we have to find a new routine, especially if we're like in Mexico or we were in Egypt, we don't speak the language. In Morocco, we don't speak Arabic or French. So I mean, it's a whole learning curve. So that's exciting, and that takes time to figure out. Plus you have the pets in the house and all that. But then to think, yeah, it doesn't have the, I thought it had an appeal a few years ago. We talked about it a couple times, and I'm like, oh no, but man, and then you said something about some overland caravanning you were doing also.
Yeah, so on big trucks, there'll be about 22 people on the truck, and then you just travel around. It was like 6 months across Africa, 6 months across Asia, 6 months around South America.
Unfortunately, how do you get organized?
You just find these companies and apply. And I'm very lucky. I seem to be a very flexible kind of person, and I've always loved camping and just seeing new places. So it suited me fine.
That sounds incredible, actually. I mean,
yeah,
really, you obviously have a Wanderlust, Sheila. That should be your middle name, Sheila Wanderlust. Fantastic.
But I'm still in touch with people from all three of those major trips that I've done. And I was just about to do another one with lockdown.
Right.
But hey ho.
But now you said you're thinking about house sitting in Spain.
Yes. I'm missing the warm weather. So I was chatting to a friend in Spain the other day, and I think I'll probably go down there. Okay. Unless I can find something else.
Well, we usually have a good stream of house sits coming through Spain and France and Italy. So I'm hoping, in fact, some of them are beginning to wake up now, the south of Spain especially. So hopefully we'll have some good choices for you.
Oh, good. That's good. That's nice and warm weather for her.
Yes. Well, and Eden, you have house sat for us. You did a long-term one in Spain.
Yep. And we're still friends with. Actually, we went back and saw Kem and Fetty in Valencia when we were there on our way to Egypt the year before. We stopped and saw them and spent the night with them. And they just bought a house actually in Valencia, or an apartment in Valencia. But yeah, south of Spain is beautiful. It's lovely. Yeah, your HouseSitMatches are, when anybody says, Europe, or I'm like, no, go to HouseSitMatch. She's got the France and Spain and Europe and England, and
we have quite a few in Europe, actually. Yes. It'd be nice to go further afield. But talking of further afield, Eden, house sitting in Egypt. Now that's quite unusual.
Yes.
How have you found that? Now that's quite a different culture to where you're raised in the States.
Yeah. Well, so it came in as a referral, which most of ours come in, and it's in a gated community on the Red Sea. So it's a very, I don't want to say modern by not like Australia standard modern or America standard, but it's very modern place. Everybody speaks English in there. It's very safe and secure. It was beautiful. So we were there for 2 months, and while we were there, we befriended the neighbors. They're good friends. We had dinner at their house a few times. Actually, Kem and Fetty from the sit that we did with you came and visited us for 10 days and stayed with us in Egypt. So that was lovely. But they had said, hey, they go away every summer. They go back, they're British, and they go back to the UK for the summer every year for the 3 months while it's really hot. And they have cats. And usually the neighbor just kind of comes over. They have a laundry room with the cats, food and water, and the neighbor comes over and checks on them and stuff. And she said, but if you'd like to house sit for us, we'd love to have you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because we actually were thinking about renting in that town. We liked it so much. We were just enamored with it. And
so 1 second. So house sitting introduced you to a town in Egypt that you fell in love with, and you're thinking of moving there and renting?
Yeah, we absolutely loved it. We absolutely were just enamored with it. It was
So
lovely.
what is it about it that you liked?
There's water all around you, and it's very inexpensive. The rent was pretty expensive. Unless you're there and you're like getting to know, it's like an Egyptian refers you. They don't want to rent to Egyptians, right? Like in Mexico, right? If you're gringo, you're going to pay a different price. And in Egypt, it's very similar. So if you're a foreigner, you're going to pay a different price. So rent was kind of expensive, but the cost of living was just pennies. We couldn't even walk out of the fresh produce store and spend $6. Like, I mean, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. Plus the water you have the turquoise blue water of the Red Sea all around. So it
diving.
was just beautiful. And
you were
it was
able to
very
enjoy
modern.
any of the Egyptian culture at all?
We did. We actually spent 10 days touring. So we went into Luxor, we did the hot air balloon ride, and we played tourist for 3 days there, then went to Cairo and did that thing for a few days. And yeah, we just enjoyed it. We really did. We felt very safe, very comfortable. Everybody speaks English. I mean, even in Cairo, we had English speaking. I mean, it was quite impressive. And yeah, we really, really liked it. So they had said this summer, I got a hold of her in October, and I said, hey, how's the plans looking for next summer, right? Because we're about 6 months out. And she said, well, do you think you guys could do 5 months instead of 3 months? And we're like, yeah. So we can live there for 5 months at the place that we think we want to rent anyway for half the year for free, and then take care of the cats. And it's a beautiful home. And we had access to a boat to go out in the ocean and on the sea. And we were literally on our way. We were in the 5 week, we had a 5 week layover, came back from Mexico to see with my mom and kind of stock up on medications and whatever we needed to do, get ready to go. And then we're going to fly to Panama, actually. I would have just missed you in Panama. And then we were taking the cruise from Panama to Portugal and spending a few days in Spain, and then flying to Egypt. And it was all set and everything was paid for. And so your question was, do we know what's the plan after this? So we got this 2-month house sit in Hawaii, which is not international for us, obviously. So it was totally doable. The normal sitters are Canadian and they can't leave and come here. So they had asked if anybody was interested. I said, yeah, we'll do it. And from here, we're hoping that something will be open, because we don't really want to go back to the US. I mean, that's not home for us. And you know, we could do a house sit, we could find a house sit, but it just doesn't, there's no place that has appeal. And it'll be going into winter time. We'll be ending here early October into September, and that's starting winter, and there's no place in the US that's pleasant. So it's either Mexico, we're back down to Mexico again, or we're thinking head to Asia, but we just don't know, you know, we don't know where we're gonna go. No
It's
idea.
interesting you say that the US is not home to us. Is that because you've been house sitting for over 6 years? You feel actually anywhere could be home, but not necessarily where you're from?
Right. Yes. So we lived in Belize for a year, and then we lived in Nicaragua for a year, and then we started house sitting. So we've really been gone for 8 years from the US, and other than going back and seeing my mom. And yeah, so there's nothing about the US that appeals to us living there. I mean, it doesn't, you're always in a car. There's no walkability. It's not warm. There's just nothing. That people aren't friendly. To be perfectly honest, it's not a. Yeah, we like to be in foreign cultures, even if they speak English, we're comfortable. It's just that we prefer to be in a foreign culture. It's just not where we want to be.
I can really relate to that. I can really relate. My heart just isn't in the UK anymore. Obviously, I miss friends and family, but I just want to be out there.
And Sheila, you travel alone?
A mixture. I have a friend, an American friend who absolutely loves Mexico, which was my introduction to Mexico. So we've traveled around there quite a lot. And yeah, other times, like with the overlanding, I've just booked on it and gone off. I've traveled on my own, just staying in youth hostels, and I always make sure I've got somewhere to go to wherever I go. But yeah, it's a mixture.
Wow, what an adventurous life.
That really is an adventure. I mean, I hope you're keeping a diary of some kind, because it sounds like you've covered a lot of miles. Yeah,
I just tend to write down the major things that I've done in a day. But these days I don't. I seem to be spending more and more time in different places. So the days are more like, they aren't so different.
Yeah.
But I've got all my old diaries. Actually, my old diaries are all locked up in New Mexico. So I hope I get back there one day to rescue them.
That's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it sounds like you're both kind of retired or semi-retired. So you have pensions of some kind, and with which you can sort of fund these travels. Is there anything about house sitting in particular that you think is going to appeal to you at this stage in life? Do you think that there is a benefit to house sitting in sort of, in the more mature years?
I think it keeps you fresh. My husband's 76, and I really think it keeps you fresh. It keeps you from not getting stagnant. Like I said, even grocery shopping every time even if you go to Spain, right? We can speak Spanish and we're comfortable. We've been to Spain a few times. Every time you go to another town, you start over, right? So it keeps your mind working. I think it's a huge benefit.
That's wonderful. And Sheila, you were going to say something.
I would definitely agree with that. There's always new things to do, new things to learn, people to meet. The hardest thing is you meet some wonderful, wonderful people, and trying to keep in touch. I mean, thank heavens for Facebook, because I just couldn't possibly keep in touch with the people. But I've also got open invitations to almost, all over the world. So
that's fantastic. I have to say, one thing that really drew me to house sitting as an industry, if you can call it that, is that I have always loved travel. And somehow or other, my jobs didn't start out with travel, but they ended up with me putting my hand up very high to say, I'll do that trip. Yes, I'll go there. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can speak this language, or I'll, quickly learning the vocabulary on the plane. So I love seeing new places. And in fact, COVID has made me want to go really, really far away. It might not be possible, but I'm desperate
and
to see new shores.
And in my thought is that that's a huge benefit for us as house sitters, and for you having the platform, is because you're not alone in that feeling, right? So as soon as the doors open, I mean, I know Europe is starting to open up itself, but if you go look at some house sits now, there are Italian house sits, and there are this, like you said, you're getting some Spanish house sits, and they're a little bit longer than they used to be, because they really want to go and be gone. So it's a huge benefit. I don't think that, other than this lull of you can't really go anywhere, but even in the US, like this one, right, they were tired of being here. They wanted to go back to the mainland. Other people, like in Oregon, want to go to Texas for the summers. They just want to get away, not Texas right now, obviously, because that's a bad place, but let's say Montana, or they want to go, so they just want to go, right? Mm-hmm. So they're willing to say, hey, come watch the house. Normally we go for 2 weeks, but shoot, since we finally get to get out of the house, we're gonna go for a month, right? And I really think it's a huge benefit to sitters to, at this point in time, to get yourself ramped up and ready, because there's going to be some really good house sits available.
I agree. And I don't think it's just about, it's not just a change of scene. I think if you love travel, it's about kind of your very fingertips and hair endings, sort of being somewhere different and experiencing the air and the color and the heat and the taste and the flavors and the smell, every sensation coming alive, because you are being challenged and stimulated, and it's your cognizant self that's kind of being jolted by an alien environment that's actually not alien but just different. And I love that. I love that. So it's almost like an electrical pulse running through you, thinking, oh, I have to learn this. I have to see, experience it. Is there a place, I mean, you've both been far and wide. I can't even begin to count how many countries you've both been to. But is there a place that you have initially felt, oh my God, this is so different, I don't understand it, but in the end found you loved it or could appreciate it? Is there somewhere that culturally felt extremely different, but you began to kind of assimilate it and then really enjoyed it? Anyone want to step forward and sort of say that?
I think
Morocco, probably. Go ahead, Shirley.
I think maybe I went across the all the stands, which did vary, but and some of it was a very different kind of culture. But when we got to Kyrgyzstan, I don't know, it just seemed to be the countryside is absolutely beautiful. They say it's a bit like Switzerland that I've never actually been to. But the people were wonderful. There was such an interesting mix of cultures there. That was a great place. Although one of the first cities we went to there, I didn't feel comfortable. But once we got out into the countryside and into the smaller towns, it's a beautiful, beautiful country.
That's fascinating. So you did a number of the stands then. What, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan?
Yes, because we were on a truck, so we were driving through.
I love it. I am so impressed. That is so adventurous. That is fantastic. I have to say, on all the Housesit Hangouts, no one has ever said they do the group truck thing.
Oh, you'll get a few more now, I'm sure.
Fantastic. Well, great. So Kyrgyzstan, that was...
Oh, no, go ahead.
Eden, how about you?
Morocco was the one that really stuck out to me. We were really overwhelmed, but felt very safe and felt comfortable. But everything was, we're big bus people. So I can really appreciate what Sheila, the overland, the group thing, because we're bussers. Like if it's flying versus busing somewhere, we're going to take the bus. We've taken the bus like from Antigua to Nicaragua. It was 26 hours, right? We did that bus. Well, it was 16 hours from Antigua to Nicaragua, and it stops in El Salvador for about an hour and a half. So it's 8 hours, you get a little break, and then it's 8 more hours. But we would totally do it. We did it several times. So you know the routine with the bus, right? You get a ticket, you get on the bus, you find your seat, blah, 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 blah. And it all seems very simple, but in Morocco, it just wasn't that way. So it was a month house sit, and we were 6 hours south of Marrakesh. So we were at the border of the Sahara Desert and no man's land. From the minute we got off the plane, basically, we were detained by immigration because they said no, we wouldn't have. We told them where we're going, and they said no Americans live there, and you wouldn't have friends that live there. And we're like, no, we do. We have friends that live there. And he's like, no, well, what's their address? I'm like, they don't have an address. Oh, it's a big city. Well, of course, we've never been, so we don't know if he's lying or not. And we're just, so they had to call the owners who doesn't speak very good English. He spoke French. So it just turned, just from that, you're already stressed, right? You're going to be able to get into the country and all those kind of things. So it just, right from getting off the plane and getting in the country and then as we got through it, we were very comfortable. Like once we got through the routine and we got to the sit and he took us around and explained it, and we're like, wait, we can do this, no problem. And it really wasn't it. We didn't get to see Morocco for all its beauty because it was during Ramadan, and at the end Ramadan was just wrapping up as we were leaving. So we do want to go back and actually see it alive and for all its glory. But Morocco would definitely be that one for me. But I know I'll never go to India. Now, to me, that was overwhelmed. Morocco was total, you know, the sense, like you talked about, the smells and the sound and the busyness, Morocco was enough. And people were like, oh no, that's nothing compared to India. I'm like, well, then I'm not going.
See, that's interesting. So you had a threshold, you met a threshold.
Yeah.
In terms of difference
it.
between your culture or the cultures that have made you, and then the culture you kind of felt you could perhaps assimilate, but anything more than that would be too much.
Right. And the same in Thailand. Thailand was we were up in northern Thailand. It was very busy. For us, it was very busy. And people are like, oh, go to Cambodia or go to Vietnam and you'll see busy. And I'm like, and you'll come back and appreciate this. I'm like, why would I do that? Why would I go torture myself worse to come back to appreciate this? That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
That's so funny. So Sheila, have you met any thresholds like that when traveling where you thought, oh, okay, I can appreciate this, but any more and I would top you over?
Well, certainly with immigration, the worst place I've had is the States. I think because I go there so often, you know, and I'm accused of wanting to live there, and yeah, I've only once had a smooth entry into the States.
That's too bad.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And where do you go generally? Do you have a route that you tend to go to?
Not necessarily, no. Depends where I am beforehand.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll go and visit somebody else before I go and go on to New Mexico. But I always end up in New Mexico.
Right. Okay, one question then. So as you prepare to go to a completely new culture, let's say you are going, I don't know, somewhere very different, Iran or somewhere, but you know, it's somewhere you've wanted to go and you've got a house sit or whatever it is. Do you have a routine plan that makes you break down all those barriers so that you at least feel you can control the environment you're in and you understand, or do you just kind of let yourself flow? I mean, how does it work for you? Do you have a plan to help you manage your entry into a country and settling in, or do you just kind of observe and just carry your ticket and see what happens? I mean, how does it work for you?
It probably depends on the countries. Certainly the Muslim countries, much more careful. I've been to enough now to sort of understand it a little bit better. Yeah, my first introduction actually was Morocco, but I was fortunate. I was staying with a Moroccan family and they were wonderful, absolutely fabulous. Yeah, I think, you know, if I was going to Iran, which I haven't been to, I would certainly do a lot more research. I have a former Iranian brother-in-law, so I have a sense of, you know, it's a very different culture, very, very different way of life. He's a great guy, but, you know, but I would certainly do, it depends on the country, but, or somewhere. I've never been to Russia. So yeah, it's sort of checking out the places I'm going to go, places I want to go to, what to see. And then sometimes you just get this odd opportunity to go somewhere, so we'll just go.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
So I plan more. Because there's two of us and my husband's older and he's not the planner, and I'm the one that does all the research. I'm like, hey, do you want to go here? And he's like, okay, we'll go. Like, you know, he just knows that it's going to be taken care of. The hotel will be taken care of. I might show him a few pictures and be like, hey, how about this one versus this one? So I do quite a bit extensive research. Albania is probably the next one that we want to hit. We haven't been to, and we do want to go down to the beach, Sarande in Albania, but only summertime because we're warm people. We tout ourselves as the world's worst tourists. We do very little tourist stuff when we're in countries. Very, like when we were in Sevilla, we did a cooking class and a food tour, I think, and maybe a walking. We had a couple of friends come during that set. We had my mom came. My mom came to Portugal, so we went back to Sevilla. We had a friend come to the house sit, and we went back and did a little bit of tourist stuff with him. but we really don't do tourist stuff at all. The Egypt, we did the 10 days because we were hopeful we'd get back, but we just weren't sure when it was going to be. So I wanted to make sure we did that. So I don't really look at what things we want to do while we're there as much as what other people are doing. Like I'll get in the expat groups on Facebook. So like, no matter where we're going, like right now I'm in 4 groups in Hawaii for the Big Island. When we're done here, I'll leave. When I'm in an Albania group, you know, like I get in the Facebook groups and just read the conversations and get a feel for the people. And then if I have questions, I'll ask questions. But yeah, Vietnam is Hoi An. Vietnam is one we want to get to. So we had a friend that lived there. She's passed away now and her husband is there still. So we have a connection there. But again, I don't understand the immigration thing. It's so confusing. Like the visa thing, it's just terribly confusing. So I finally just put in the group and I asked, like, all the rentals are for 6 months, but my visa is only good for 3 months. I don't understand. How do you're saying, you can't extend it and all that kind of stuff. So I'll find out ahead of time. Yeah. As much as I can.
Okay. And it sounds like you go for long house sits if you can.
We prefer, like a month or more. We prefer. We've done it so long now, and we've kind of gotten on a list of places. Like I said, there's a few places that we still want to see. Denny wants to see the south of France, right? You haven't been to France at all. So so once we get back going and you have a French sit, we're going to be applying for some French sits. He hasn't seen that at all. But we're not rustic people. Like we don't want to be 30 kilometers from town. Like, that's not our kind of thing. So we don't want to be in the city necessarily, but so I'm trying, I'm always looking for the right one to apply for. And then Spain again, we didn't really get to enjoy the, you have a lot of like Marabala, is it Marabala?
Marbella.
And then Malaga, you have some usually, and on the coast, you usually have a few. Mm-hmm. So we'd like to do maybe 1 or 2 of those because we'd like to spend a little time on the coast of Spain. We're not huge fans of Spain because of the way they eat their food and their time zones. Really screws us up every time. Every time we love Spain and we get there and we're like, the stupid dinner thing, it just messes us up. So yeah, we don't have many places that we still want to. We have a huge desire to go, but if the sit came up and it was the right sit and it was, like you said, a longer enough term that it made it worth the trip, or we made a big plan, then we would do it again. Yeah.
Okay. Quick question then about what actually got you started on your big adventures. Can you point to one thing that made you think, oh, you know what, this is possible now, and I think I really want to do this? What kind of triggered your journeys? What was the first footing?
I always wanted to travel. I wanted to go on the magic bus to India when I was at school, but my parents wouldn't have it. And then I found a nanny job in France, but I don't know why, but my father said no. And there were 1 or 2 things like that. So in the end, I just gave up and settled down and just did a normal job and promised myself that I would travel at some point in the future. But then got a house, the mortgage and all the rest of it. So the next step was, right, when I retire, I'm going to travel. And yeah, so hopefully I've made up for all those, well, I'll never make up for all those lost years. And I think the hardest thing doing it now is that although the mind is willing, the body is a bit slower these days. And this is partly why I'm thinking maybe a house sit's a good way to go.
They are a more comfortable way to travel, really, aren't they?
Yes,
an established home, and
yeah. I mean, I love staying in hostels and places because you meet so many interesting people, and they say, well, let's hire a car, or have you been to so and so? It's a great way of finding your way around.
Mm.
But then house sitting, you completely have the opposite. You don't have that at all. Like we actually have to, in order to meet people, like I said, I go in the Facebook groups, or I try to find an expat group for the area. even if you talk to the owners and you say, hey, can you introduce me to a couple of your friends or something, you may not hit it off with them. And other than that, there's really no way. It's just like any other town. It's really not really easy to meet people. So that's something that's kind of gotten me, like, I feel like I've lost that sense of, like, I can't call a girlfriend up and go out for coffee kind of thing. It's that kind of not having a home base anymore. But so you just have to find like the walking group, or, you know, find somebody, or the book club, or whatever it is that you enjoy. And then so that's the difference with house sitting versus traveling. It does have, that is a downside. But unless you just make yourself do it, right? If you enjoy it, you just find the people and you do it. We're kind of homebodies, but
yeah. And what started your journey, Eden? What was the trigger?
I got divorced.
Oh, okay.
I went to Belize I just quit everything. I just said, I'm done. I went to Belize on a diving trip on my own, and fell in love with Belize, like just fell in love with it. And I came back and said, I'm going to live here someday. And a couple of years later, I met my husband, and he had said, I said, do you travel a lot? And I traveled when I was younger. My parents always have traveled, so I was always used to that. And I said, have you traveled a lot? And he said, yeah, I've done the Caribbean and Mexico. And I'm like, no, have you traveled? And he says, no. I said, well, what do you know, he was at the age of retirement. So he had a pension coming. He was just about to get his Social Security coming in. And I said, wow, with that much, it's not very much money now when I look at the big picture, but that's enough to live off of in Belize. And I said, we can live in Belize. And he's like, what? And so we made a plan to move to Belize and build a business, and then sold that business and the other businesses, and moved. And then once we moved, we got stuck. Like, you know, then you're paying rent, and you're not going to find the time to travel, because you're going to spend money on rent and then you're going to be gone for a month. That doesn't make any sense, right? It just became this big burden, basically. We moved to Nicaragua, and that's when I started meeting more travelers. That's when house sitting came to us. I would go on Twitter and watch when people were coming to Grenada, Nicaragua. And I'd be like, hey, when you're here, I live here. I'll take you out for coffee and I'll show you my favorite places. And they're like, what? Okay. And we started networking with people, and this word, oh, but how do you guys travel so much? Why are you in Nicaragua? Oh, we just got off a house sit in Puerto Rico and we're visiting, or we just got done with a house sit in Honduras or Antigua, Guatemala. And I'm like, what is this house sitting thing? Like, and I will never forget. I said to my husband, what about house sitting? What do you think about that? He goes, no, I'm not going to sleep in somebody else's bed and go live in their kitchen and use their appliances and their stuff. We have everything we want right here, and we're perfectly fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess then we just won't travel very much. We'll do Central America and go to Panama and Costa Rica. And about, like he normally does, about 4 days later, he came in and he goes, well, we could do it for little bits of time, right? And still keep our apartment. I'm like, yeah. And that's what happened. Somebody offered us a 5-week sit in Nicaragua where we could keep our apartment and go experience house sitting. And 4 days later, somebody called us up and said, we're going to buy that house down the street from you guys. If we buy it, we can't move in until October. So could you watch it for us for 5 months? It was fully furnished when they bought it. And we're like, oh, wait a minute now. We just got 6 months worth of house sits and we didn't even do anything. And within 2 months, we were booked out for a year. And it just started. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So, and we gave up an apartment. So we rented in Thailand for a couple months, but it was really because the king had just died when we were en route. And that kind of put a damper on things. And the house sit that we had, we thought we still had. So we just kind of like doing a short-term rental, if we were going to stay or not, and go check out different areas. And then she canceled. So then we're like, well, we'll just stay here for a little while. And then he woke up one day, he's like, I don't really like it here. I'm like, well, let's not stay. Let's stay here. And that was, I'm sorry, that my water bottle. And that was that. But I think there's I think for us, it's a lot of, we manifest and we put out there to the universe, what we want and what our intentions are. And you know, we're good people and we have an excellent reputation, and we honor and we have integrity. Like we honor the owners and their pets, and we have integrity. And I think that comes back around. We honestly have never had a bad sit, and this is number 46 for us.
Wow,
so
that's really good.
Yeah, we've never had a sit that somebody's like, oh, you had a bad sit. I'm like, no, not really. We had one that pops out in mind, but it wasn't a bad sit. It just, we were just misled, but it wasn't anybody's fault. You know, we actually went ahead of time and met the lady, so it wasn't like we didn't know what was included.
Right.
It was just miscommunication. But no, we've never had a bad sit, and I think it just comes down to that. But
I think that's testament to you as good sitters and experienced and just good people of good character, as you say. That's fabulous.
Yeah, I think like attracts like.
Sorry?
I think like attracts like, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, Sheila is gonna attract probably people that have very adventurous. She's gonna have very adventurous homeowners that she's gonna attract because she's very adventurous, right?
Absolutely.
But there's so many there's so much out. Like you get some sits that are just amazing on your site.
We've had some fantastic ones, I have to say. We had one in Costa Rica, which was the middle of the jungle, and it had sea views. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. But and they always wanted long-term sitters. They've sold the house now, actually. But yeah, we've had some amazing ones.
Yeah.
Sheila, I have to tell you, I remember the magic bus. And in fact, I did take the magic bus to Athens.
Oh, you lucky person.
And Athens was fabulous, although I did have people to stay with. I had cousins to stay with. And I was only 16, so my parents were a bit kind of, you know. But yeah, and I also took the magic bus to Paris. That was my biggest bus adventure. They were fun.
You took a bus from the UK to Greece?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to go to India.
India's way more adventurous.
And you could go more to Afghanistan in those days.
Yeah, they were dirt cheap. I don't know how they ran them.
Yeah.
I mean, I saved up all my babysitting money, you know? I mean, that's...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, anyway, that was 400 years ago, so they don't run those anymore. Okay, so the one thing that came to mind, Eden, another advantage of house sitting, you mentioned that homeowners, you've house sat for us, Kem and Fede, they were in Seville at the time, and you spent, I think, a month or 6 weeks in Seville, something like that. And it sounds like you became so friendly that they came and stayed with you when you were house sitting in Egypt. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
we've become really good friends with them. They were actually in Italy, and I had said to her, en route to Egypt, we stopped in Valencia. I said, hey, we're going to be in Spain. She's like, well, make sure you come by. We have room for you. I'm like, okay. So I think we stayed there 2 nights. And then I said, well, you know, it just kind of came up in conversation. Like, look, we're in Egypt. We're there for 2 months. As soon as I get to the house, I'll check it out. But I think it was 3 or 4 bedrooms or something. And they were in Italy, and we were flying from Madrid. No, that's Spain. We were flying from Milan to Egypt nonstop, 5.5 hours. So I told her, I'm like, you guys are going to already be in Italy? And she's like, yeah, we're going to be there with a friend, and we're going to go to Rome and see his family. And I'm like, then just head up, just fly down. I mean, there's a lot of Italians in this town in Egypt. I'm like, come down and do the whole tourist thing. And then, yeah, it was just, you guys got free lodging, do the stays. And the owners were like, yeah, whatever you want. And yeah, we asked them to come down and stay. So Fede in exchange cooked for us in exchange for lodging, because they didn't have to pay for hotel the whole time. They did actually go do a couple. They went to Luxor and Cairo and did the trip. But yeah, they were. Yeah, so we've actually become really good friends with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I've become very good friends with people in France, in the UK, Spain, just because, you know, you live in their space. It's quite an intimate experience, isn't it? And,
it really is.
You share those experiences, and the pets are kind of a common denominator as well. I mean, the stories I shared with the homeowner in France about her hens, you know, I mean, I'd never looked after hens before, but they were hilarious. And the cockerel, he was such a little Napoleon, it was hilarious. And she loved the little stories anyway. So you're right, you become very close. It can be fabulous.
So when we went back, it'd been 2 years since we'd seen them. We went back to Valencia and saw them then. and the dogs remembered us instantly. And one of the dogs had actually eaten one of Denny's sandals when we were there the first time. It chewed up his leather sandal he left on the patio. And so we went out to dinner. Denny put one of his hats down, and we all went out for dinner. We came back, and the dog had eaten his hat. And she was mortified. She's like, this never happens. He's never done anything like that. And I'm like, but he did it. He was saying, like, I know you. Like, he just did it to Denny's, right? He didn't do anything, any damage to any luggage or anything, just that hat. He's like, hey, I know you. I like you. I remember you. Remember how I did this for your stuff?
That's fantastic.
Well,
How
funny.
wonderful.
Oh, wonderful.
How wonderful. Okay, one last question, if I may, and then I don't want to end this conversation, but it's been nearly an hour. One last question. So if you were to recommend to someone who's never tried house sitting before, the top 3 things that they will get from it as an experience, or just whatever you want to say, what would those 3 things be? Or, experience of house sitting with travel, because that's, I think, what unites the 3 of us.
So I'm going to go first. If I can think of 3, I got 2 right off the top of my head.
Please.
So the local experience, living like a local, that's the difference you get, because you're not in a hotel, you're not in the tourist zone, you're in the neighborhood. You're going to the local grocery store, you're going to the post office, or whatever if you need to buy a pair of shoes or get your hair cut. So you're living like a local. I think that's a huge benefit. I think I can say I've lived in these places versus I've been to them or traveled to them, because you literally have lived there. The relationships with the people and the pets, that's the second one. It's a huge benefit. You don't even realize how deep that those go when you've occupied somebody else's home, and they feel comfortable months later just mentioning, oh, my rosebuds finally bloomed. Like, they remember you because you had a conversation about how it wasn't that time of year, and then they send you the picture like, hey, the rosebuds finally bloomed. And you're like, wow, nice. You thought about me, It just, it's a very intimate relationships with the homeowners and the pets, right? So something happens to pets, sadly, often we'll get a notice something happened to the pet, right? And it's very sad because you feel like a little attached to the pets. But it's a benefit. It's a very intimate relationship. Those are the 2 that came off the top of my mind. And then the culture, I think, just experiencing, even within my own country, right? Or anybody's within your own country, you're going to go places that you may have never been before, towns you've never been to before. And they're different. They're not your local neighborhood. So it's different. Even in your own country, you can experience a different way of living or life that you haven't before.
That's fabulous. Sheila, you've done a little bit of house sitting, but a lot of travel. What do you have to suggest as the top 3 things?
I don't know about the best top three things, but I can suggest why I'm considering house sitting more, and that is partly because it gives me the opportunity to go places that I'll probably choose places that I've not visited before, and it'll it'll extend my pension. It's a cheaper way of living. Just loving to meet the local people, get to feel the culture a bit more. What else would I say? Oh dear, there must be a third one. Yeah, it's just really a great way of being able to travel, having those opportunities, and
That's
hopefully I would be a good authentic house sitter who'll look after their house and animals in the way that their owners would expect. And
I'm sure
I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, thank you both so much. It's been a fabulous conversation, and I loved hearing about your travel adventures, the motivations for travel, but also, why you like house sitting. It's been really, really fun. So thank you both very much.
Oh, thank you.
Look forward to
Sheila, I'll keep in touch. I'm going to do some of that overland.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at some of that overland truck stuff.
Oh, I know. That sounds fantastic. Yeah.
I'm so curious.
Great.
Okay, lovely to meet you both.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Very
Happy
nice
house
to see
sitting.
you.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.